Welcome to the Convergence Advantage, the official podcast of the Caribbean Investment Summit 2026. In this series, we explore how global capital, mobility, compliance, and regional leadership are converging to reshape the investment landscape and what that means for the Caribbean and the broader ecosystem. Today, I'm joined by His Excellency Calvin St. Juste, Chairman of the Board of Governors for the Citizenship by Investment Unit of St. Kitts and Nevis. He brings a unique perspective on the major shifts that we are currently seeing in the investment migration space. As we know, St. Kitts and Nevis is the pioneer of CBI and occupies a unique position of authority, bringing over 40 years of expertise. It is this architectural legacy and proven resilience that makes the program a leader of the modern pivot, and we are excited to uncover what that looks like today. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. So, as you indicated, I'm Calvin St. Juste. I'm the executive chairman here in St. Kitts for the Citizenship by Investment, or just a Citizenship program, as we are going through a rebranding of who we are. The role, I'll start with my role, and then I just sort of give a little bit, one or two snippets on the who I am behind the names. So the role of the chairman and what I specifically do is, along with the Board of Governors, is really to safeguard the integrity and long-term value of the program. I think that's critical. As you mentioned in the opening, to be 41 years in this ever-changing environment, those are two critical key things. You have to safeguard and to maintain that long-term. The other areas that my role covers is really strong governance. That's critical because it's really a trust factor that we offer in these programs. And there's always shifting in different, and even within our space, there's shift in political dynamics, there's shift in geopolitical situation. And what we've seen is when you can offer strong governance and transparency, it allows people to have confidence in these programs. And as we know where we are in 2026, this is the most critical time where we need these type of skill sets, and even more importantly, these specific areas of managing the program as we transition to those these I would say new norms. That would be key thing. And the other areas what I function as and to ensure is really efficiency and digital transformation of the program. When we say we are 40 years old, we can't function as we were in the 1980s. We have to be ever changing. And so efficiency, digitization of the program, but maintaining the core foundation is really the key area of what my role is, just so that we can continue to contribute to national development here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and make sure that we can ensure that new citizens can feel at home. In terms of, from a personal side, I was actually born here in St. Kitts and Nevis and left many moons ago and established my career internationally in a number of Fortune 100 companies, which afforded me the opportunity to, I would say, withstand all the challenges that this industry that comes with. And so I made a conservative decision and more of a personal decision that, after spending many years in the international arena and obviously sitting in areas that I know many of my people may not have had the opportunity to, and sitting at certain tables and making decisive decisions, that I would use those skills and bring it back home to see how I can contribute in some meaningful way. And not everyone gets that opportunity. And so I was afforded that, and with the guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Juste, in ushering a new era in his administration, I decided to return home and then lend those skills in this program.
How do you see Caribbean investment programs fitting into modern global wealth planning strategies?
That's a really great question because I think historically these programs were only seen from a mobility or only as a plan B, or some people have heard as an escape mechanism. And the programs have shifted from that transactional component of one time to more a dynamic um, program where it can contribute and complement, maybe if I use that word, one's one's portfolio in terms of wealth planning and various strategies. What we see here, and most recently, we are in the process of launching what we call Priority One, and this is what's going to be our concierge model. And it is specifically designed for those discerning investors who are now really looking at these programs, these investment programs, truly in the context of how do you leverage them from a asset protection mechanism? How can you incorporate them as part of your financial planning, financial wellness strategy in terms of from a future perspective? And so we saw that with the advent of the change. And so our citizenship program is now converting away from a transactional, which is usually considered of a one-time investment, and then you move on and we don't hear from you. And so we're creating that what we are calling, what I call a connected tissue. We want to have a genuine link with these individuals. And so we also now have to change the program to offer those dynamic financial and wealth generation offerings, whether it's trust options with various experts, whether it's giving them access to do financial planning or executive planning, supporting based on their wealth needs, and also giving them access to various banking capabilities. But we're going beyond just simply you're making that one-time investment and then you've tried to figure it out. We're going to give you a concierge model, which is our priority one. Where I won't say hand-holding, but you will have that luxury experience. We're going to connect you directly to the right individuals. And I think that's really what we're launching with our priority one, we call it. Concierge is sort of a natural extension where we're going to invite individuals to have that deepen with the Federation, along with making sure that we have curated social experiences. So that's what the intent is with this new Priority One launch.
Okay. Many advisors now approach mobility as part of a broader portfolio. How should they think about the Caribbean programs within that framework?
So what I would say is advisors should assess the Caribbean programs from a serious allocation perspective. And what that really means is very keywords and very key elements. We talk about governance strength. That's critical. That is one of the key areas that individuals are looking for. So when you talk about governance strength, it creates itself to longevity. Because these programs, as initially traditionally has been leveraged as we said, a plan B, you want a plan B to be around for a very long time, not just for a short period of time. And I think what St. Kitts and Nevis has offered is that we have been doing this, and we were the architect of the creation of this investment migration. And it has been initially a sort of quieted type industry. But as you mentioned it, what we are seeing now is the evolution of individuals asking those questions away from a one-time plan B, should I just get a second citizenship just in case? But they're activating it. And so the first thing is getting that governance strength. That's the bench strength. The other thing in assessing these is really around due diligence credibility. Very important. So as they think about these programs, they need to look into that. I would say policy stability and operational efficiency is important, but reputational durability. And I would add some modern filters, in terms of purpose. What is the main purpose? When advisors approach mobility as part of their portfolio, it's really understanding the purpose. And the purpose has shifted significantly. And that's one of the reasons why we're now introducing in our programs even residency as part of a genuine link. Because we have now seen where it's not a one-time interaction. Individuals really want to understand what their new home looks like and how they can contribute and what that new home can contribute to their personal development, but also their professional development as well. So I think those are some of the key areas where the market is shifting, as we're seeing, in terms of individuals want to contribute to, I would say, national development. And so when advisors are bringing into the conversation, investment migration, they have to make sure, one, there's a comfort level on the program of selection, that it has been proven and tested over the years. And that's number one, because you want to choose a program for their specific discerning investor that over the years can be passed on to generation. But most importantly, as now they're bringing that as part of the conversation, it is also making sure that it fits into their long-term, whether from a wealth planning perspective, but even more so as we're now hearing as a second home, where in their generation and their future generation are now looking for that as well.
From your vantage point, what distinguishes Caribbean programs when viewed alongside tax planning, estate planning, and asset diversification?
Well, what I would say the Caribbean offers is, we are sovereign nations, but we align ourselves with the international best standards and jurisdiction role from a reputational perspective. And so the Caribbean is quite a strategic option in that it offers the level of mobility and resilience, than the traditional tools. And what that means really is when you talk about, tax planning, estate planning, but I will anchor on asset diversification. Here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have one of the most robust trusts component in the world that gives individual an opportunity to participate in this particular trust for future planning, generational component. And that's important for them to take into consideration. Obviously, we have in St. Kitts and Nevis, once if an individual is seeking to be part of our DNA, we have one of the most robust banking facilities here in our financial structure. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is actually homed here. And we've been pegged to the US dollars, I think, for almost in the 1970s at 2.7. So that gives you a confidence in when one is bringing into, whether the tax planning, depending on the jurisdiction where they're coming from. I would say from a tax planning perspective, we offer no personal income tax. We have no personal income tax. We have no wealth tax. We have we don't have any inheritance tax. And so depending on one's jurisdiction and depending on where they are, this is a major benefit for them from an estate planning perspective, but even more so from a diversification standpoint. And and we saw that as another game changer, and hence this aspect of our new service that we're about to launch, which is the Priority One, will give that premium experience as we're partnering with various curated financial experts and professional advisors.
How do investor expectations change in terms of transparency, structure, and long-term planning?
Yes. So what we've seen is more needs for transparency. I think that's critical. And when one get more transparency in the decision point, it then gives them a comfort for that long-term planning. So what we have seen in the requests and or the acts is there's a stronger demand of proof of governance, And that's critical. Yeah, how are these programs being governed? How do I ensure that this investment or this contribution or endowment is truly going to what the programs that truly invested, national development programs for the countries. The other piece where you're seeing is the demanding proof of due diligence strength, and that's critical. And when we talk about due diligence, it's making sure that we don't have situation where we have bad actors coming into the program. That in of itself can dilute and create a challenge from a long-term viability of these programs. And so it's very strong. We have one of the most robust vetting and due diligence program, I would say, in the industry. In terms of really making sure we're not just looking at the person and from a background perspective, but we also look at the source of wealth so that it meets international standard. There's no anti-money laundering challenges. The factor component is taken into consideration. And we're now in the introduction of biometrics to safeguard our program meeting at the highest international standard, where we're introducing biometrics in Q1 of this year. And the biometric collection is actually going to be at the standards similar to the the US, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. So we are no longer just doing things at one level, but we took into consideration our international partners. And then I would say lastly, what we are seeing, the demand for transparency and long-term planning comes into where the programs are now succeeding and giving that level of confidence, that because it protects the integrity and individuals are comfortable making sure that that level of investment is protected.
What makes St. Kitts and Nevis the platinum standard?
Yes, that's a really good question, and we get asked that a lot. I think the first thing I would say it's the reputation around consistency. Strong due diligence, the integrity of the program, and efficient delivery. I think that's really set us apart. Last year, in 2025, we were ranked number one in the industry index for the 5th consecutive year. What that does, it really reflects the confidence and the credibility of the program over time. When we talk about St. Kitts and Nevis being the oldest, longest standing program, that gives individual the confidence that, we have seen it, we work along with our international partners, we are aware of some of the challenges, and we quickly pivot to make sure that we protect the program. We understand the importance of this program and the revenue that it brings to the lives of St. Kitts and the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we are making sure that when we go to the international market, that we're standing confidently, that individuals can trust. We've gone through a number of reforms, as I said earlier in my conversation. We've now digitized, this 40-year program. We went through a full digitization initiative where we now have to embed in AI into our processes as well. And then we're also being innovative. We are no longer just simply offering just one component. As I said, we're launching the Concierge Priority 1. And so that in of itself is really giving us that level of where individuals have had the trust, and we continue to be seen as that platinum program. But most importantly, is measuring the national benefit that this program supports our citizens, whether it's offering affordable homes to individuals who've never had homes, whether it's providing a contribution or expansive funding to micro and small business individuals, or even to the extent where we are now providing new and innovative high schools to the future leaders. This is what this program does. And I think, sometimes we only see the one side at the front end, but we also need to see the trickle down side of how it really impacts the lives of the citizens in St. Kitts and Nevis, and hence the reason why we're introducing this genuine link.
What lessons from 2025 are most important for advisors helping clients think beyond short-term outcomes?
Yes, it goes back to what we said. It's the first is really prioritizing the jurisdiction. That's important. What is the jurisdiction in terms of governance and the track record? That's the first thing. A client is going to ask immediately if this is an option. Tell me who's the best. Why? And so that's the first. And they go further now. The clients are asking, the individual, the discerning investors are asking, I would call it the three-level question. What makes this program better than the others? And then they're no longer looking from a cost perspective. Initially, before, we thought it was always a price point. It's no. How is the investment contributing to the lives? And now, because I'm now going to be a citizen of this program, I want to make sure, as you mentioned, the roads are done well, the hospitals are improved. I also want to make sure that that the country is moving along further in its development and its national projects, because not only is this for me, not only this option is for me, it's going to be for my future generation. And so the questions are now at the level 3, because they're no longer thinking just of themselves. And that's what we're seeing we've learned in 2025 around treating citizenship as a long-term relationship with the country, because of the reputation and the legacy. And then thirdly, I think it's really just the safest path is a long-term strategy alignment. That's one of the things. They're looking for proactive transparency. They want to feel comfortable that, the programs are truly protecting any of the applicants who've already been through the program, that there's no bad actors coming. So they're asking us even further tell me about transparency, tell me about your due diligence, and then tell me how efficient you are to make sure that this program has its long-term sustainability.
What capabilities will distinguish leading jurisdictions as trusted long-term partners for investors and advisors?
Yeah, I think I've touched on a few of them. It's more the same thing. It's around regulatory clarity. As you would be aware, we're about to have the regional regulator. That's very important. That's the first. And St. Kitts and Nevis was the forefront in driving to that. We felt in order for these programs, because of the criticality of nation building that they provide, we wanted to make sure that there's a longevity. And so we were the help driving the architecting of getting a regional regulator to just more or less create the standard and make sure that everyone is following appropriately. Operational discipline. I said it's no longer just the paper. People want to get an understanding digitally where things are, how efficient you are in getting things done, rather than 3-4 years of waiting. How efficient, but discipline efficiency, and that's important. With discipline efficiency, you're not cutting short, you're not taking any shortcuts. You're making sure things are done, but it's done expeditiously, and then obviously making sure that we provide, just as I'm sharing with you, credible communication, and really what folks are looking to get. Leveraging the technology, all the things, as I started off with, what we saw from a private interaction that they're now asking for these programs to deliver, in terms of making sure that they make the best selection for their family, for themselves, and their asset protection, making sure that this gives them a measurable outcome.
You keep leading into my next question. What gives you confidence in the region's ability to adapt and lead in a changing global environment?
Now, confidence is key. I think, the region understands what's at stake. And that's critical. And we understand the criticality, because as I said, at the front end, most people tend to see the glitz and glory up the front end. Yeah, wonderful. I would like to get this option. This would be great for my plan B. It makes it. But what I see is that the trickle down impact. I see great roads being built. I see creative art centers that are being built for similar to what you're doing, our creatives. I'm seeing the diversification out of depending on one sector that these programs has supported with, and even in our space, tourism, having various development options where people can truly get more. I see jobs being developed, constructions happening, moving away from the historical view and advancing a nation forward. And so these are the things I'm seeing that really makes the program critical and being ready to lead in this ever-changing environment. And so we work closely along with our international partners because we value them and we want to hear what their concerns are, whether it's border management, migration issues, making sure that firstly we protect our borders and indirectly protecting their borders as well. And so we went through really strong vetting and due diligence process, introducing biometrics, introducing blockchain verification. So we've really looking at ways that this changing environment, we are either alongside or we're leading in this area because the Caribbean has to adapt, in the pace of change, whether it's AI, big data, and we're moving into AI sovereignty. That is another major area that we have to explore as well. And so we have to adapt in order for us to survive. And so therefore, St. Kitts and Nevis is leading in this space.
Looking 5 years ahead, how do you expect Caribbean investment programs to feature in global wealth planning?
I think if I step back and think about some of the historical planning options that one would provide an investor, historically this was only for, I would say, a select few. I think this is now coming into what we are seeing specifically. It's almost a requirement in terms of options that investors are asking about. That is clearly a change we have seen coming from last year, 2025, to this year. It is now part of. So we expect the strongest program to become embedded with long-term planning. That's a given, as we are seeing with the global uncertainty. But the programs that remain central to this shift being the ones that are perceived as the product, being recognized as trusted framework, that have clear standards, strong due diligence, they deliver with purpose. And so the next 5 years is going to be a dynamic where investors are going to truly have an opportunity to provide and offer programs because investors are asking for it. Discerning investors are asking for it. They're asking for the protection. They're looking for stability. They're also looking for asset planning. And they're also looking for that second home, not just as a plan B, but they're also looking to activate and find that place that they can say, this is my second home and I want to contribute to the development of it. This is the changes we're seeing.
What can we expect to see in 2026 from St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship Program?
Well, I think I've alluded to a few of what to expect. As I said, by the end of this quarter, we will be implementing our biometric collection for all new program applicants and existing St. Kitts and Nevis citizens who obtain their citizenship through our program. And this really would enhance, security measures, aligning us to the international best international partners, the EU, the UK, and the US. Additionally, I would say what this year is also going to see is even more digital introduction of different type of opportunities to make sure that individuals have more transparency along the application processes. And then lastly, I would say obviously the advent of the regional regulator will take place, and we would see the impact and what that does. And finally, the change around making sure that we stay ahead. We are staying ahead of what is next, what is to come. Hence, we're now introducing a new service ever been brought to, which is the Priority 1 concierge program to maintain that genuine connectivity.
And finally, what can CIS 26 attendees expect?
Absolutely. So they can expect a high level practical dialogue focus on the intersection of what we call regulatory clarity, because that's first and foremost what is happening from the regulation. They're also going to expect to hear about the market evolution, similar questions they ask. What is to come? What is coming? What is it we're seeing in the change in dynamics that impacting these investment migration programs? And then strategic innovation, digitalization, big data, AI sovereignty. What is the next big thing? So attendees I would expect, would leave with a sharper level of insight on questions that they may have been thinking about, and we will be answering them, stronger alignment, and much more clearer directions on where the industry is heading in the future.
Thank you, Chairman, for sharing your insights today. What stands out is the launch of your new program. And not only that, how critical collaboration and clarity have become as this industry evolves. These are exactly the conversations we'll continue at CIS 26, where leaders from across the ecosystem come together and move the dialogue and the industry forward. We look forward to welcoming you, our listeners, to St. Lucia in May 2026. See you there.